This episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast is brought to you by Smart Music. Still the trusted way to connect teachers and students, the new Smart Music is in the cloud, so it works with the devices your students have today. Best of all, you can use it for free. Learn more at smartmusic.com. You're listening to the Music Tech Teacher podcast, episode number 18. Welcome to the Music Tech Teacher podcast. Music tech tips, lesson ideas, advice, news, and interviews, especially for music teachers. Brought to you by midnightmusic.com.au. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast. I'm your host Katie Wardrobe from midnightmusic.com.au, the place for music teachers to get the help they need using technology in music education. Today I'm very excited to be joined by a special guest on the show. Her name's Amy Burns and she's a music teacher from Far Hills Country Day School in New Jersey. Amy's been teaching elementary music for more than 20 years now, and she teaches general music for students in K-4, and she leads a number of ensembles as well, including the Far Hills Philharmonic, and does some choir direction, and I'm sure a lot of other things as well. She's got a Kodai and Orff background, similar to me as well, and over the years she's really become known for integrating technology in the elementary classroom. She shares her lessons and information regularly on a couple of different blogs, which is fantastic and really helpful for other music teachers. Amy is the author of the book Technology Integration in the Elementary Music Classroom, which is a collection of lesson plans, and I'll include a link to that in the show notes for this episode. And she also has a couple of free ebooks which she created, the Help series, I think she calls them, which is the first one, Help, I'm an Elementary Teacher with One or More iPads. And the other one is Help, I'm an Elementary Teacher with a Smartboard, or Music Teacher, I should say. It's probably more correct, isn't it? So welcome, Amy. And Amy and I share a bit of a passion for running as well. So we were just talking about that before we turned the record button on. But Amy tells me she hasn't been doing so much of it recently, but is hoping to get back into it.
That I am. Katie, it's so good to hear you again.
Yay. It's really exciting. Amy, I think we've known each other probably in an online capacity. I was actually calculating earlier today, probably for 8 or 9 years maybe. I mean, I got onto Twitter in about 2009. That was a pretty remarkable year for me. A lot of things changed, because I became, more in communication with people around the world, particularly through Twitter and then Facebook as well. And I think we sort of hooked up there through a couple of other people. And then we've actually met in person twice, which has been so exciting. And hopefully again in the future will happen too.
Yes.
So it's excellent to have you here. And one of those times Amy actually came out for a keynote speech. I asked her to come and be part of the Australian Music Technology and Education Conference, which was fantastic. And then later on I was lucky to go across to the Texas Music Educators Association Conference, long name, last year. And we got to meet up again there. So it was great to see you at both of those places.
Yes, I loved going to Australia. I wish I could come back there. That was just such an amazing trip and such a fabulous time meeting all those wonderful music educators.
Yeah, and it was quite short, I think, for you at that time. You sort of did a, dash in and dash out. It's not easy to dash in and dash out of Australia. It's pretty brutal.
My daughters were 5 and 3 at the time. So yeah, it was literally dash in, dash out.
Yeah, that's right. And you barely get time to get over the jet lag, and then you're heading back to your own time zone. So sometimes it's actually not worth changing your body clock, I think.
No.
Oh, it's terrible. So I've done that trip too. And actually I found last time I went overseas, like to America, I timed it really well. I found that if I arrive at your nighttime, then it's so much easier. You're kind of exhausted from the travel. And so no matter what time zone your body thinks it is, you just want to go to sleep. And so that's what happened last time I was there. And I think that's the way I'm going to try and do it in the future.
That's smart. It's very smart.
Yeah, really, really good. So tell me about technology use in your life. And I'm pretty sure that, like me, it's changed a lot over the years for you. I'm sure that what you were doing when you first started teaching is quite different now, largely due to technology. Yeah. So tell me, what was it like in the early days when you were teaching?
Oh, wow. So I've been a teacher for 21 years, and the past 20 have been at Far Hills Country Day School. So they're wonderful elementary school, pre-K through eighth grade. I teach pre-K through fourth, and they are so supportive of the arts. I love being there. When I first started back in 1997, there was no technology for me to get a music education degree. Like none of that was trained. You didn't need it. So I just didn't have it. And it was there for about a year when my colleague decided to turn her whole classroom into a 17 keyboard station using Korg X5s. And 4 of them were going to be set up with computers, which were these very old Macs, like very old Macs. Like, I'm not even sure what they were called. They were so old. They were tan. And some floppy disk I still had couldn't work.
I think I had one of those too. Yeah, and the little boxy shape. Oh gosh, I've got friends who would instantly know which model it was. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I have no idea which one.
Yeah, it's not the Apple II. I can say it was past that, but it wasn't much further past that. And so I just remember looking at that room going, well, I don't have to worry about it. I teach the little kids. But one of the things I did was I got involved with TIME, the Technology for Music Education Association there, and started taking their summer courses. And that's when I started to think like, you know what, there are some really great websites out there. At the time, this was one like Music Ace, which is still around today, but was just becoming so popular. And I realized like the games there were a wonderful way to reinforce some of the concepts I was teaching. And there were websites that were great to reinforce some of the concepts I was teaching. So I just begged for a projector so I could just project the computer onto the screen and be able to use it as a nice tool for reinforcing things I was teaching in the classroom.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think is if you were to, say to someone else, what is the very basic minimum, things that you need for technology in the classroom, I always say, one device, one laptop, or it could be an iPad or something now, and a data projector with speakers. That's really, you could do a lot with just that setup, I think.
I totally agree, especially the speakers are key. I always sometimes forget to say it, but yeah, the speakers are key. And now that you can Bluetooth your speakers, it's just so convenient in the classroom.
Do you find it works really well for you, the Bluetooth thing? I shy away from it when I'm presenting because I just find there's a little bit of, I don't know, I can't rely on it 100%, so I tend to want the plug-in option. But, I do know a lot of teachers are using that now.
When I present, I usually plug in. When I'm in my classroom, I Bluetooth. And yeah, there are days, even the kids will tell, they'll know like your board isn't so smart. They'll say that to mine. And they'll say, Mrs. Burns, your Bluetooth has decided to quit. And it's true. I'm like, no, I just need to disconnect and reconnect. But the Bluetooth I love because I have a Samsung Expedition and I bought it old. So like it had the 30-pin iPod connector. And I thought at the time I bought it, like, this is the best thing ever. I can connect my 30-pin iPod into and then, at the time, that's what we had. And then like when we had these better, devices, they came out with like a $25 Bluetooth connector for it. And I was so happy and connected in and everything became Bluetooth in my room. And that I love. I have to say I do love it and I'll use it more often than not, even though it will fail sometimes. But that's technology. I always say that technology can be somewhat like my pre-K students. Some days they love me and sometimes they just urinate on my carpet. So technology is sometimes it's just the best ever and sometimes it just is unpredictable.
Yeah, absolutely. I just recorded an episode called 7 Ways to Survive Technology in the Music Classroom. And one of my big things is, and I say this a lot in workshops and you probably do too, you have to have a contingency plan. You have to plan as if things are always going to fail. And then you're never worried because if you've got something else up your sleeve, and it might be just you've mentally thought of it ahead of time or you're so well practiced that you've just got things in the back of your mind, whatever it is. If you've got that there, it becomes so much less of a stress,
I agree. I always say there's 26 letters in the alphabet. So plan A didn't work. You have 25 more letters to go through.
That's
And
great.
you have to have them in the back pocket. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bluetooth's been a big changer. Wow, I wasn't quite expecting that one. So what else in those early days? So you had access to the lab. Did you end up using that with your students at the time?
The lab, yes. But I would go in there like once or twice a year. You couldn't get in much. Because it was signed out often. Oh, this was way back when. Yeah, when we had the labs. And of course, now my students are, this year have gone 1-to-1. And my pre-K through 2 are iPads, and my grades 3 and up are Chromebooks. And I got to say, like, the iPad has been such a wonderful addition to my classroom. When they started to do a few iPads around the school and there was an iPad cart, I was able to score a few old iPads and put them in my room, and I was thrilled. So a lot of times I'm not 1-to-1. I rather be 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 so that students are collaborating together. I think that's essential.
Yeah, I love that too. And I think the iPads work really well for that because there's something easier about crowding around one iPad than there is a laptop style screen. I'm not sure why, but it just seems more portable, even though laptops are portable too. iPads just seem even more portable. You can just go anywhere with them.
And the kids have grown up with them. So my youngest daughter is 6, and when she was born, the iPad the iPad 2 had just launched, and she doesn't know the world without an iPad. She would not understand you talking about that. Like, she doesn't understand when I talk about that. Like, what do you mean you didn't have an iPad? Where was it, Mom? Did you lose it? Did you lose it?
Yeah. My kids tease me about the olden days in inverted commas, and they are referring to 10 years ago or something. Like, okay, you should see when I grew up. I have to remind them that there was no internet. I mean, it existed in the world, but we didn't use it. I didn't use any internet or software or anything through the whole of university. I mean, I hand wrote everything, and it was crazy.
Dial-up. They're like dial-up. Why'd you have a landline phone? Why would you connect your computer to that?
Oh, so funny. So funny. And the days when, I always laugh about the days when floppy disks were actually floppy, and they still use that icon as the saving icon across software programs. And most people don't know what on earth is that icon.
We used to do our grading system on floppy disks, so you can imagine how reliable that was.
Just
there was a year my grades didn't get turned in because the floppy disk got destroyed. I had to redo them all.
No. Oh, my gosh. See, there's the contingency plan in play. Yeah. What else do you do? Yeah, and even now, I love the fact that you can, contingency plan nowadays might be that you took photos of things, you take photos of things to have a backup of that sort. And, even back then, photographs were difficult. You had to have a camera or get one out, and it was a bit more cumbersome. But nowadays, just even having a camera and a video camera at that with you all the time is just so useful. So useful.
Yes.
Just the simple things. So you've got 1-to-1 if you want it, but often do the collaboration thing, with students now, which is so good. I think the collaboration thing is a massive part of technology and what it can open up for you, really, in what you can do with students. So that's really good. How about sharing of work and stuff? I mean, this is something I get asked a lot, and it's one of the more difficult aspects of using technology is distributing things to students in a digital format and getting it back again in a digital format. That's been a struggle over the years, and it varies so much, I find, here at least, from school to school, whichever system people are using or restrictions that are in place. We have some schools here in Australia, one of the states particularly, that cannot use cloud-based tools like Dropbox. So it just really restricts what you can do, especially with iPads, because you rely on it a lot for that.
Right.
So what are you doing in that regard with sharing of work back and forth?
It's been a game changer. We're using Seesaw, and Seesaw has been amazing. So our school had us pilot it last year in pre-K through 2. So I jumped all over this because this was finally the solution I was looking for, that my curriculum could leave my classroom and get on the parents' mobile devices.
Yes. And Seesaw, just explain for those who might not know what Seesaw is. Explain what it is.
So Seesaw, you can find it at web.seesaw.me. And there's 3 versions of it. It basically is a student digital portfolio. But you can assess on it as well, and you're sharing everything you can do in your classroom with the parents. So the 3 versions, there's the free version up to 10 classes, and that in presentations that always tends to stump some of the teachers. They'll say, I have 600 students, I work in 4 schools, and I have 27 different classes. So don't look at it that way. Look at it as 10 grades. If you just culminate all your 3rd grade classes into 1 grade, it works. But they also say, too, that if you've never used Seesaw, pilot it in only 1 grade and work with it for 1 year with 1 grade so you don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Seesaw,
great idea.
Yeah, Seesaw Plus is $120 a year, and that gives you some additional tools to it. It gives you more classes. More teachers can combine. So like you, as a music educator, can combine into the classroom teacher. The free version only allows 1 teacher to tack onto your classroom, but they can give you, with Seesaw Plus, your classroom teacher could be using it and add you into the classroom. It also has assessment tools in it like skill sets that you can add and customize, and they will you can, when you're assessing the students or they're uploading like a recorder assessment, you can sit there and add the skill sets. They'll never see it. The parent won't see it, but you have it right there in your teacher's Seesaw account. And then there's Seesaw for Schools, which is what our school ended up getting. And that's something priced differently. Like the school has to call in and say, we have 500 students, and they price it that way. But that allows you free range. You can do anything in Seesaw. And they make it so intuitive. They make it very easy. They make it almost, I feel like, looking like social media, but it's safe because Seesaw is internal. So you have to invite a parent. And I love it because I have both. I have the teacher and I'm a parent. So they invite me to be Sarah's mom. So I say, I'm Sarah's mom. Then the teacher has to look at it and go, yes, Amy is Sarah's mom, and approve it. And then when Sarah posts things or the teacher posts things on Sarah's behalf, I'm the only one who can see it. And the notification comes to my phone, and I take a look at it, and she's explaining a book review of Gerald and Elephant and Piggy by Mo Willems. So she talks about the book, and she does a little book review, and I'm seeing this all on Seesaw.
Awesome. That's so great. That's so great. Yeah, I asked that question a lot is, like if I'm sharing work with parents, who exactly is seeing the work? And I'm always assuring people, it's the parents of that student only and no one else, whoever the carer is of that student. So, it's very safe in that regard. I love it too because it works across all devices. I've had a bit of a play with it, and I haven't been very in-depth with it. I really need to do that because I've been doing some digital portfolio workshops and, online courses and stuff. And I think, as soon as I do a workshop, often another tool will come along which is the game changer. So Seesaw's been a little bit like that. I'm like, oh man, all those workshops I ran last year, or the year before, and I hadn't used or hadn't discovered Seesaw yet. Anyway, I will do that. But it works really well. Web browser, and you can log in from iPad. They have a specific app, I think, don't they, for mobile devices for that interface, which is great. And just looks really good. Very, very nice to look at.
It's fabulous. It connects to your Google Drive. Students can use it. And what's great is like where Google Classroom can be a little complex for younger students, this is not. This is what younger students use iPads for. So if they want to add content, they look for the plus button. So they click the plus button, and they're given, if they're on an iPad or a Chromebook, they're given like 6 to 7 options. And it's very obvious. They look at it and go, oh, photo. I want to take a photo of my work. So they hit photo, and there's their work. They take a picture of it. So let's say it's a song they composed. So they take a picture of it, a rhythm pattern they composed. They take a picture of it. Then there's a microphone. They hit the microphone, and they go, here's the rhythm pattern I composed. Ta, ti, ti, ta, rest. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. And then it's done, and they upload it. Now the teacher gets it. They have to approve it. So they approve it. And then the parent gets a notification, and then they see this thing they wrote, this rhythm pattern they wrote, and that they performed.
Fantastic.
And then Yeah, and the skill sets, you can sit there and give it 4 stars. They can never see the skill sets, or 3 stars or 2 stars. So when it comes to grading time, or for like New Jersey music educators, we have student grade level objectives that they have to pre-test and post-test, and they can look at these skills to see if they've progressed. So I got to tell you, Seesaw is just amazing to me. I mean, I really think it is a game changer for younger students.
And do you end up, like I'm presuming for your own reporting, you need to, can you export the data that you have in there to do with the skill sets so that you can then transfer it across to whatever system you need for the school? Or your schools are all into Seesaw anyway, but is there any time you need to move the data across to another platform?
I'm looking at it right now. That's such a good question. You know what? And then I'm an ambassador. So we have this Google ambassador, like the Seesaw ambassador on a Google a group. So every day about 10 questions come in, which is great because you look at the questions, you go, oh, I had that question. Or sometimes it's very classroom teacher oriented. You're like, yeah, I didn't have that question. But that's a really good point. And I've never seen that question asked, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure if it can. I'm looking in one of my classes right now on my iPad app to see if I can do that. And it's a really good question, and I'm not quite sure
That's
if
all right.
I
we can check it, and I can add it to the show notes if we find the answer.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I do have skill sets for this one child. I know I do. A recent skill set. And I have to tell you, I'm not quite sure if I can export it. It's a great question.
It's often ask. The one I'm asked, yeah, because I'm just thinking of the teacher that might start to adopt it in their classroom, say a music teacher, but maybe the rest of the school is not using it. And they will still need to put their data in some other system or, whatever the school's using at the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that expert. That is definitely something I can actually put onto the Google Ambassador, Seesaw Ambassador Google group and see if that can be answered.
That would be great. We'll get back to everyone about that. This episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast is brought to you by Smart Music. Smart Music is the music learning platform that allows teachers to connect with students as they practice. It makes it easy to create individualised assignments, hear student recordings, and provides specific guidance. Smart Music also empowers students by providing them with immediate feedback, both in terms of rhythm and pitch. This feedback transforms practice from passive repetition to active learning. The new Smart Music brings these resources into the cloud, so they work with Chromebooks, iPads, and other devices your students use today. Best of all, you can use it for free with limited repertoire, or access the full Smart Music library with an affordable pricing model that can be customised to fit any sized program. Learn more at smartmusic.com. What about, that's an awesome sort of productivity thing for both you and the students, and I'm presuming that parents must get quite excited, and this probably is a good benefit for advocacy, for music generally, is that the parents are seeing what the students are doing all the time, and that like ordinarily they kind of get a sense that things are going well in music and they're doing great stuff, but you don't really know until you're seeing the individual work there. So I'm presuming that's been working quite well for that regard as well.
It's amazing. As a parent, I love it because I see everything. And as a music educator, I can't even tell you, it's a great way to remind parents what dress code is for concerts. And, I teased them last week. I was like, tomorrow is the concert. Come see this. And I gave them a 30-second video of what they did that day.
Oh, that's so great. That's really good. So you can put anything in there. It doesn't have to just be schoolwork. It can be anything you like in terms of notifications and whatever. Yeah. That's really cool. I think people should use that more often, Might work really well for recruitment too. Older students who need to opt into, playing in certain ensembles and that sort of thing, you could, or joining up with the musical or whatever it is, you could use it for that way.
Exactly. When we did the town assembly, I just linked the Google form onto the Seesaw. And so that made all parents in grades 1 through 4 be able to sign up so easily. It also helped us because some people would say, I didn't see it. And you can actually look to see if they saw it.
Yeah, I love that.
When they will point back you probably forgot, but you did see this on so-and-so date. And they came back to say, oh, you're right. You're right. I did see it then. So it's a great record keeping.
We have a couple of systems like that. In my business, as a business, we have some tools like that, which it's not like we need them for Big Brother purposes, but sometimes they do help, because someone will say, no, I never saw that. Well, I can see that the email was opened on this day.
Right. And in a very sincere and polite way, you did, because they'll be saying, did I lose my mind? That's what, usually someone me like, have I lost my mind? Thought I read it. Where did I read it? And I'd be like, on Seesaw on November 10th. Oh,
10:45 a.m.
They're like, yes, I need to go check that. Okay. Because there are a lot of communication tools, but that Seesaw is fabulous. Grades pre-K through 2. And now I'm using more Google Classroom for my students in grades 3 and 4, which have been fabulous as well. So they've been able to upload back to me things that way.
Yeah, I need to get more into Google Classroom. They didn't have it open until recently. I think it has just become available to non-schools, if you know what I mean. So me as an individual who's not attached to a big, school or university, I haven't been able to set up my own Google Classroom. And I just wanted to do that specifically to look at how it works and so that I can help out teachers or have an understanding of the challenges they're facing. And I think I can do that now. So I did read recently it was coming soon, so it's probably there now. But yes, that's a really useful thing too, because lots of schools have that in place as the system that they're using. And I've really transitioned nearly everything over myself to Google Drive that I've been using. I've found in the past I was using Evernote quite a bit, but I've kind of ditched that now and I just do Google Drive because it seems to just be easier to share with other people. I think that's the main thing. So I can share documents and all sorts of things,
Exactly. So many things, some of the apps can smash right into Google Drive. Even just saying they just updated it so you can pull almost anything from Google Drive and post it on Seesaw. So many things can app smash to it that it is very convenient and very useful.
Yeah.
For me, since we have it for the school, they until they tell me it's unlimited storage space.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
It's thrown into it's not my personal Google. I'm like, yeah, that will go into my school Google account. And I think my IT has said you're one who uses it a lot. And I promise it's for school. I mean, when you're trying to back up all your music,
I was going to say
it's nice to be able to have that.
Yeah, audio and video is such a big part, of a music teacher's life. And I often say, we often have it worse than other teachers in the school because, of the heavy use of audio and video all the time. So it can be quite hard, I think, yeah. And Amy's use of app smashing, I love that terminology. I've done workshops where I've talked about app smashing, which, if you haven't heard that terminology before, it's sort of the way of combining things in a couple of different apps, maybe 2 or 3 things, and you do something in one app and then you might send it to another one and you add something or change something there and then go on from there. And it works really well. Google Drive's great. And are you using, I think you and I've spoken in the past about Soundtrap. Are you using Soundtrap with students and Chromebooks?
I love Soundtraps.
I really love it too. I love the interface. It's actually my favourite looking program out of everything, out of all of them, GarageBand, Mixcraft, all of them. I like the clean, colourful interface and it's just really nice to look at, but it works really well. And for those who are not familiar with Soundtrap, it's an online, GarageBand style equivalent software tool, and it's a bit more new and recent than some of the others, but I think they're going to have some great features in there and really come up in the world, and yeah, it's just great.
I think they are here in the States coming a lot more prominent. Music First has included them now.
Yes, I was so happy about that. Really happy.
Yeah, I was brilliant. Soundtrap, I love it. One writer said it's the love child of GarageBand and Google Docs. And it's so
yes, that's great.
Because you can collaborate and with others around the world. And they have the EDU version. So, I always tell people to try the free version first. And then because that's not EDU, so the teacher tries that. And then if you love it, to say it has, it's pricey, but it's so worth it, that EDU version. And it's so intuitive. I've had second graders use it beautifully. And it really is the IT in my school are amazing, and they made it so that the devices in my room were the email accounts because you need an email account for it.
Yeah.
And the devices in my room were the ones that worked, that she made email addresses for them, and then my students could all collaborate. So not only could my one group of students write together, then they're like Soundtrap number 25. Then they could look over at Soundtrap number 197, who's across the room, and invite them onto their composition, which I was loving. So they would compose a melody in Note Flight, then I just get it over to the Soundtrap, and then they were creating sounds to it, whether it be a little bit more world music or pop. We would talk about the styles. It was a great conversation with the students to understand what a band is. You don't have dueling drummers in your band. You can't have two drum beats going on together like that. You can't have the two lead guitarists are going to start fighting. You need to balance it out, and like you turned your melody down. That's the point of the composition.
Yeah, I love that. I used to always laugh in Sibelius compositions because it's very easy in Sibelius and other notation programs, which are, digital format stuff, where you can have a flute louder than an entire brass section, but it's not realistic, for real life. So you need to kind of be aware of how things work, and you do need to have that experience of what is, like you said, what is a band, what's the composition of a band. And yes, students often end up wanting to add in 7 million drum loops, I think, at once, or drum parts, and that can be quite funny.
Yeah. Yes.
And so what sort of compositions are they doing? So they're doing short melodies or rhythmic things in there?
Yeah, they could do rhythmic compositions or very short melodies. They're great doing melodies that they can play on their recorder, and currently they're doing melodies that they can play also on these instruments as part of our STEAM unit, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So today, the third graders created their instruments from recycled materials found in New Jersey. And so a lot of the rhythms that they're writing in Note Flight right now in drum parts are going to play on these drums that they were making today. So,
fantastic. That's really good. Yeah. And are you doing audio recordings of the recycled instruments too, in addition to them notating and stuff too? Excellent. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, that'll be up soon on the website. You can see some older compositions, but today they were really, the science teacher and I really tried to fix some of our fails over the last few years of our STEAM unit. Because we always have fails. I mean, the students have fails, and we have them as well as teachers. And like this time, I was really adamant for those who are making percussion instruments to make different sounds, like listen to it, find a low sound, find a high sound, use different materials. And those who are making string instruments, I really drove home the point of engineering the purpose of the bridge and why there's a bridge in a string instrument, and vibrations and sound waves. And they were getting it. I mean, there were students who, like, in the middle of music class said, "Wait a second, this is what we did in science." I was like, I'm like, yes. So like today, it was fantastic when someone would come up to me with a guitar and it was just snapping and snapping. I said, "Wow, you're forgetting something. What was it you answered in our Google Classroom that was essential for a string instrument to have?" And the girl looks at me, she goes, "I'm going to go find a bridge." I'm like, "Yes, go find a bridge, yes."
I love that. You'll have photos. Will you have photos or video of the instruments?
Yeah, I took a lot of photos today. The students were like, "Why aren't you putting my face in the photos?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry. So I want to put them on my website. I cannot have your face, but like I would do one with the face, one without."
Yes, exactly. I know. My kids are funny. We talk a lot about privacy and online safety, and of course they cover that at school. But yeah, I'm often taking photos of them. I say to them, I just need generic, basically like stock photos for my blog posts and things. So I'm like, can you just sit down and hold the iPad and stop smiling? I don't need your head in it. I just want your hands on the iPad screen.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so funny. But it's good. They're very conscious of it, and is my name on there, and who's got my name and address details, or name and whatever, photo and all that sort of stuff. So it's a good thing. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I will link to those once you've got them up as well. I'll put a link to that in the show notes too. So anything else? This has just been fantastic, just talking about even those things. I think the online aspect of Seesaw and Google Docs or Classroom or Drive, all of those tools in the Google suite is fantastic, and Soundtrap as well being online. Do you find that most of the things you're using are that cloud-based, at the moment, rather than native apps and things?
Yep, No Flight, Soundtrap. I got to tell you, Soundtrap I absolutely adore. Seesaw, amazing. Yep. Everything is really becoming more based in the cloud because it's just more accessible. If my younger students had more access at home, that would be where we would be going next in that. But yeah, it's just so much more accessible, and they're not losing their work, and it's easily shared that way. So, and their assessments are becoming easier that way as well. So I really loving what's coming around the pike. I'm loving how it's progressing there. And again, it's using it when it's necessary, when it's the right tool to use, when it's making it so the students can actively make music better than they could traditionally. And using it for assessment so that we're showing and advocating what we're doing in music class. So I really do love the way technology helps that. But again, I always tell when I'm presenting, I always show this picture of a dessert buffet. And I got this from another presenter. And I'll show them so many different tools because there's just so many great different tools. But if you ate the entire dessert buffet, you'd be sick. You don't always have to use technology. If you did, you and your children will get sick. It's just too much. But to use to eat the brownie one day and it's delicious, to use technology when it's going to be delicious, when it's going to be the right tool, and it's going to help the students create or compose. That's fabulous.
Yeah, it resonates so much. I may steal that, it'll appear in a future presentation of mine there,
Yeah, I stole it from someone else. So I went to an Alan November conference, and I stole it from one of the presenters when she put that up there. I was like, that is the visual.
It's so true. And it's funny because you and I were both admins for a Facebook group, which is just called Music Teachers, and there's over 20,000 people in there. And that the same cycle of questions come up. There is, maybe 10 questions that happen in a cycle over every 2 or 3 months or so. And one of the recurring ones is I have a Chromebook or I have an iPad. What are some good apps or what are some good websites I can? And it's a sort of a valid question, but in a way, I would be asking, I want to do this in my classroom from an education point of view. I want to teach rhythm, or I want to compose, or, and here are the tools I've got. What can I use to do that? But the question is often about the apps, for the iPad. And then we both have seen it, there will be 50 responses in comments to this post of everybody listing their favourite apps. And they're all so varied because really it depends on what you teach and what you want to do. So everybody responds from their own point of view. So the band director has very different needs from the elementary K to 4 teacher. And so their favourite apps are going to be completely different and maybe useless to the other teacher, but everybody chimes in. So the question often, and honestly, I think with iPads, I've now ended up saying to teachers, look, from a creativity point of view, start with GarageBand and exhaust it completely. Do as much as you can with GarageBand because you have that there. It's, included on most iPads, and use that and use it in many, many different ways. And literally, if I only had one app and it was GarageBand, I would survive. I think that would be almost enough, Maybe Noteflight as well, but, just stick with one thing and use it really intimately, and then maybe add in a couple of other things. I don't know.
Yeah. It's true. Again, that's just that dessert buffet. Take one item and go with it. If it's successful, I always love that Dr. Scott Watson always taught a course that said GarageBand does it all.
Yeah,
right. It's amazing, Scott. I'm like, it does. I have to say, I am kind of going away from GarageBand into Soundtrap just because it has that collaboration.
The convenience,
but the virtual instruments, especially the Chinese virtual instruments, my kindergarten created an entire Chinese New Year song from those virtual instruments. And
fabulous.
I will go right back to GarageBand on that because those virtual instruments are fabulous.
Yeah. And I love it for that too. I mean, this is the thing with technology. You don't want to have it there all the time. But like you said, it's not like you would normally have access to a class set of Chinese instruments. So, if the technology... or even a class set of... someone said to me djembes, oh my gosh, I've got a class set of djembes on my iPad.
Yeah, timpani. I don't have a timpani, but to have that app right there, the timpani app from, I think it's Ratatap is awesome. I mean, I just plug that into a sound system and now I have a bass in my classroom.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. And I don't have elementary timpani,
Yeah, fantastic.
Keep them in tune.
Yeah, it's so good. It's really, really good. Excellent. This has been such a great chat. I love hearing about what you're doing at the moment. And I do know it's changed quite a bit over the years. So I'm fascinated with the whole seesaw thing. I'm going to have to look a lot into that now, I think, and really get stuck into it and start using it lots in workshops and things. And yeah,
you'll love it.
I know. It's just going to be fantastic. I think it does solve that problem. And like I was saying before, that's one of the barriers is, once you've created something in an app, like how do you deal with it after that? That's the big barrier for many teachers. So to have at least one tool where, there's an option for sharing and getting it in and around and the places that you need to, I think it really solves a lot of big issues. So fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
It's fantastic. I will put some links to the things that we talked about today, and go and check out Amy's book. It's a great collection of lesson plans, just really simple ideas for integrating technology in the classroom. And I mean, it's been around for quite some time now, but it's still really valid. And even if even if it is a few years old, there's so many easy ways to just adapt it for today. You can take the concepts and then adapt it through. And I do that with a lot with books, books that I've read of people, lots of people we know who have authored some fantastic books, and it doesn't have to be that you need a specific tool. You can just take the concepts and apply it pretty much to anything that you've got hands on. So thank you very much, Amy. It's great to chat to you.
Great to to you as well.
Yeah, and I really hope we can catch up in person again soon. I would like to get to TMEA next year again, and I'm going to try and plan for that if I can get some time away. It's a very difficult time of year for me because it's the beginning of our school year, and my eldest is starting secondary school next year, so that's a bit of a change for us. But yes, so we'll be there, and hopefully I'll manage to escape for a couple of weeks and see how that goes.
Well, you need a place to stay. You're always welcome to stay. It's a couch, but it's a couch bed. You're always welcome to stay here to save some money.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Definitely when traveling
right
overseas.
Right on the straight line to New York City, so that's always a plus.
Oh, fabulous. It's always good. It's great. So easy to get around there too.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks so much, Amy, and thanks for sharing everything today.
Excellent.
See you soon.
Thank you.